Hello, welcome back to the Virtual Elephant YouTube channel. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to upgrade your Kubernetes clusters manually using kubeadm to get them on a more recent version so that you understand the process that you have to go through to be able to accomplish this. Now this is going to be a skill that you want to have even if you're using a dedicated control plane like Rancher or Red Hat OpenShift, so that you understand what has to go on underneath the covers as you run Kubernetes. This skill set is also going to be important for you to have if you're pursuing the CKA certification from the CNCF. Now, all of these skills are things that we should know how to do as operators within our environment so that we can fundamentally understand everything that's running and all of the different steps that we need to go through to be able to operationalize a Kubernetes cluster. So let's jump right in and let's get started. So as we think about running Kubernetes within our environments, one of the most critical aspects of running Kubernetes is managing the lifecycle of Kubernetes itself and all of the different components that we build within our Kubernetes service offerings. Now, if you're running an internal developer platform, this is going to be even more critical because you're going to want to make sure that all of the different versions of the core components of your IDP are fully supported both between themselves as well as on top of the Kubernetes version you're running itself. Now, generally speaking, when a Kubernetes release comes out, we get roughly 1 year of support. Now, certainly if you're using a hardware vendor or a software vendor, you might get additional support from them. But general support from the community for Kubernetes lasts about a year. Now, this means that generally you're probably going to be doing at least one upgrade, and you're probably averaging 1.5 upgrades a year. Now, personally, I like to always consider running an N-1 version so that we're staying just ahead of that end of support running out, but also maintaining a level of stability. Oftentimes when new versions first come out, not all of the different components that we're running within our environment are going to be immediately supported. So we want to make sure that we're always running N-1. That's my personal suggestion. Now, for certain higher criticality environments or high security environments that you might be running, you might even consider an N-2 option just to make sure that you're always, on a very stable platform, a very stable version of Kubernetes. But this is going to really depend on your business requirements. Now, right now, the two major clusters that I have running, my production and my dev cluster, are running version 1.32.9. And so it's time to upgrade these clusters to 1.34. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to step you through all of the different processes that it's going to take to get my clusters up and running from 1.32.9 to a 1.34 release. And we're going to actually shoot for 1.34.2. So we're going to jump right into the console that you can see here on the screen. And what we're going to first be doing is actually getting the Ubuntu hosts ready to be able to grab the latest packages. Now, it's important to remember that when you're doing a Kubernetes upgrade, and in this case, I'm going to have to do two, specifically because I am running essentially with 1.35 being released, I'm running N-3 right now. So we're going to go from 1.32, we're going to upgrade everything to 1.33, and then again to 1.34. Now, this is going to take 2 steps because I am N-3. But once I'm on 1.34, then I should be able to, when it comes time to upgrade to 1.35 later next year, I should be able to do just a singular upgrade. So I've actually let myself get a little bit further behind than I typically would or would typically recommend to customers. And so what we want to do here is we're going to actually start out with the Kubernetes notes. So you can see here, we're in my development cluster. This is the same cluster that I showed you how to install the Gateway API and set up BGP with Cilium in a recent video, which I'll link in the description below if you haven't already checked it out. So now this development Kubernetes cluster is really just a sandbox. It's getting used for a number of videos that I'm in the process of recording right now. And so getting this up to date with a more recent version of Kubernetes is really the first step. So if I show you here, kubectl get nodes, you're going to see that I'm running 1.32.9. Now these are Ubuntu 24.04 LTS hosts. And so what we're going to do is first, we're going to get into the etc apt sources list D directory. And you're going to see here that I have a Kubernetes apt repository. And we'll just show it to you really quickly here on the screen. Now it's interesting to note that this is actually pinned to version 1.32. And I've also done a hold on those packages so that if an apt-get update gets run erroneously or on purpose, it won't accidentally upgrade my Kubernetes binaries without me actually explicitly knowing what to do. So the first thing that we're going to do is, and I'm going to show you all of these steps manually. Normally, I would be pushing these changes out through an Ansible playbook that I run, but that's not going to help all of us learn, right? And the purpose of this video is to show you how to be able to go through the manual steps of upgrading a Kubernetes environment that you're running solely using kubeadm. So we're doing everything manually today. So we're going to upgrade, we're going to vim this Kubernetes list, and we're going to go over here. And again, we're going to go to 1.33. Oops, I didn't sudo it. So we're going to come here to the end, and we're just going to go from 1.32 to 1.33. All right, and now we actually need to do this on all of our hosts. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've updated that sources list for each of the nodes within the Kubernetes cluster to be able to pull the packages for 1.33. And what we can do is we can actually do a sudo apt-get update so that it gets the changes. And then once we've done that, and you don't have to sudo this one, apt-cache madison kubeadm. And we can see here that it is now seeing the 1.33 packages. So we're actually going to go to this 1.33.7. That's going to be the first jump that we make. So we're going to go from 132.9 to 133.7. And then from 133.7, we'll go to the 1.34 branch. Now, before we do this, there's a couple of pre-flight things that we want to do prior to upgrading our Kubernetes cluster. So I'm going to make a real quick directory, and we're going to call it Kate's upgrade. And we're going to go into this folder. And what we're going to do is first, we're going to do a kubectl version -o YAML. All right, and we're going to see that we're running 1.32.9. Okay, and we're going to save this to the version.yaml. And then we're going to do a kubectl, and we're going to do a get nodes -o wide. And we're going to put that into nodes.text. So you can look at that. So you can see we're running on Ubuntu. Oh, this is actually Ubuntu 25.10, not 24.04. So these are 25.10 hosts. Okay, so there we go. We've done that. And the next thing we want to do is get all of the pods that are running in kube-system. Get pods -o wide. So you can see that. We're just going to put this in pods.text. We're going to save all of this information just in case something goes poorly with the upgrade. Okay, and I am running the Cilium CLI, which I have installed on these nodes. And then the next thing we're going to do is, because we installed Cilium with Helm, we're going to get the values because we need to save those as we do the upgrade for Cilium as well. So there you can see all of the values that we've enabled for Cilium specifically running on this thing. All right, the pre-flight checks are done. So the next thing we want to do is start the actual plan and then upgrade of the thing. So if we do a sudo kubeadm upgrade plan, we're going to see that it's going to run a number of checks, and then it's going to show us that it can still stay on that 1.32 version because we haven't yet gone to 1.33 for the binaries themselves. So that's what you're seeing here. So what we want to actually do is do a sudo apt-get update to make sure that we're pulling all of the packages correctly. And then we're going to do a sudo apt-cache Madison, and then do kubeadm. So we can see the versions that are available to us in the 1.33 branch. So again, we're going to shoot for that 133.7 version. So we first to, because I've marked these as hold, we have to do a sudo apt-mark unhold, and then kubeadm, and then kubectl and kubelet. So now we've canceled the hold on these packages, so Ubuntu will actually let me upgrade them now. So what we're going to do is a sudo apt-get install -y kubeadm equals, and then we're going to copy this version right here. So now we've upgraded it to the 133.7 on this host. So now we should be able to do a kubeadm, and then an upgrade, and then apply to go to 1.33.7. And it says, are we ready to proceed? We're showing us that our current version is 132, and then we're going to go to 133. We're going to say yes. So the first controller has done the kubeadm upgrade. So now what we need to do is actually upgrade the packages for kubelet and kubectl to 1.33.7 as well. So we've already unmarked the holds on those. So what we can do is sudo apt-get install -y, and then kubelet equals that same target version, as well as kubectl. So we're going to let Ubuntu now install those two new versions. You can see it getting the 133.7-1.1. So what we want to do here is actually do a sudo, and then we're going to put the hold back on all three of these packages: kubectl, kubeadm, as well as kubelet. So we're going to put the hold back on. So there's the hold. And then we're going to do a systemctl daemon reload. And then we'll do a sudo systemctl restart of kubelet. Now, once that's done, we should be able to do, and we can check it, make sure it's started up. So there it is, it's started. So what we can do next is we can do a kubectl get nodes. And we can see that our first controller is running 133.7 while the others are still running 132.9. So what we're going to do now is actually get onto the next two controller nodes one at a time. So we're going to SSH to D1 node 2. And we are first going to do that sudo apt-mark unhold on kubeadm, kubelet, and kubectl. We're going to do a sudo apt-get update so that we make sure that it has the right packages for kubeadm on the 133 version. Once it's done that, we'll just carefully do a sudo apt-cache Madison, and we'll do kubeadm just to verify. So it is seeing the 133 packages. So now what we'll do is we'll actually go through and we'll do a sudo apt-get install -y, and we will do the kubeadm equals, again, that 133.7 version. Now that it's done that, the next thing we're going to do is actually upgrade the kubeadm part. So we're going to go upgrade node now instead of upgrade apply and the version, because we only do that upgrade apply version number on the first control plane. So here we have sudo kubeadm upgrade node. We're going to go ahead and let this run for a moment. All right, so the second control plane has finished that part. So now we're going to do the sudo apt-get install -y kubectl, upgrade that package as well as kubelet. So we're going to put the apt-mark hold back on those packages. And then we will do the systemctl daemon reload. And then the restart of kubelet. And we'll make sure it did restart. Looks good. And so now that one's done. We can do a kubectl get nodes. just as a check. So now you can see the second control plane node is running 133.7. So now we'll go to the third control plane node, and we'll run the same thing over and over again. So you can see why you wouldn't want to do this manually on a massive cluster. But for an exercise, getting ready for the certification, this is a great thing to learn how to do. And certainly this is where things like Rancher really start to shine, because when you're managing clusters, whether it's multiple small clusters or a few very large clusters, Rancher is going to be able to perform this upgrade for you automatically without you having to do all of these intermediate steps that we're having to do here. So we'll do unhold on kubeadm, kubelit, kubectl. We'll apt-get install the kubeadm version. Oh, we didn't do the apt-get update first. So again, we should be methodical when we're doing things like this and learning the process. So apt cache Madison kubeadm. Okay, so it sees it now. So it should be able to come back up here, run the install. There we go. Sudo kubeadm upgrade node. Okay, so now you can see this last one, because the final controller was actually upgraded. Now it actually went and applied the update to both core DNS and kubeproxy for us as it executed this on the final node. So that now that we've done that, the last thing we have to do is update the last packages. Put the hold back on. Run the daemon reload. We will restart kubelet. We'll check that kubelet is running, and we'll do a kubectl get nodes. And so now we can see all three control planes are running 1.33, which means that we're ready to do the actual worker nodes. Now, the worker nodes have a couple extra steps, because one of the first things that we want to do is we want to actually drain the worker nodes. Okay, so if we have pod disruption budgets set for some of our applications, this should also make sure that they continue to run and are unimpacted or not impacted during the upgrade itself. So the first thing that we're going to do is, while we are still on the controllers, we're going to do a kubectl cordon, and then we are going to cordon off the first worker node, which is -4. So now that it's cordoned, the next thing that we want to do is actually drain it. So we're going to drain it by specifying the worker node, and then we're going to tell it to ignore daemon sets and delete empty dir emptydir data. So you can see it's evicting a bunch of pods. We're going to let it do its thing. Now it tells us that it's drained. So now we can SSH into that node. Now that we're on the node, again, we're going to do the apt-get update to make sure that it gets the right versions of the packages that we're looking for. We'll make sure that it's got the right ones. There we go, 133.7. So then what we're going to do is we'll take the hold off for the three packages. So kubeadm, kubectl, and kubelit. And then we're going to install, just like we did on the controllers, kubeadm, the version that we want. Make sure we got it in our buffer. So now we'll do the kubeadm upgrade node. So it says the kubelet configuration for the node was successfully upgraded. So now we can install the other two packages, kubectl and our specific version, and kubelit at our specific version. And then we're going to put the hold back on kubeadm, kubectl, and kubelit. Now that that's done, we will do a sudo system daemon reload, and then we will do a restart of kubelet, and we will do a status of kubelet. We look good. Now, right now, the node is upgraded, but there's no workloads running on it. So this is an opportunity, because it's currently drained, that if you had some OS patches that you needed to do, you could do them now without impacting the cluster. So I'm going to go ahead and show you on this first node how to do that, right? So we're going to just do a sudo apt-get update. Now, we've already done this a moment ago, so it should be fine. But we could also do a sudo apt-get dist upgrade -y. And so we can see it's going to get some new packages. But again, we held or put that mark on kubeadm and kubectl, so we don't have to worry about those getting upgraded here on accident. Now you can see here that's actually telling me that there is a kernel upgrade that was included in this update. And in order to get that kernel update, we're going to go ahead and need to actually reboot the system. So again, there's nothing running on the node itself right now, so we're free to go ahead and reboot it. So we'll do a sudo reboot on this first worker node, and we'll let it go ahead and reboot everything. And then once it comes back up, we'll uncoordinate, which will let new workloads or the applications get rescheduled back onto it. It'll bring up the Cilium stack on this node. And then once we see that it's good, then we'll go ahead and we're just going to perform the same steps on each one of our worker nodes, one at a time. And then once that's done, we'll do a quick check to make sure that everything is running. And once we know that it is, we're going to consider this first step of the upgrade done. And I'm basically just going to iterate again, going from 1.33 to 1.34 on all of the nodes. And then once that's done, the cluster is now running an N-1 version of Kubernetes for me, and I'm going to be ready to be able to deploy my IDP on this environment as we're working through our new platform engineering YouTube series for 2026. Know that all of the steps that I've performed thus far will just be repeated on nodes 5, 6, 7, and 8. Again, these are skills that you're going to want to have, especially if you're studying for the certification, to be able to just really understand how it all works, how it all comes together. This certainly isn't something that I would recommend you doing on a very large scale cluster. Of course, I would encourage you to use a platform like Rancher or Portainer or OpenShift to be able to do those things and be able to manage your Kubernetes environments in a very streamlined fashion. But certainly understanding, I'm very much a fundamentals person. So this is fundamentally, you need to know how to do this to be able to, I think, really understand everything that's working and everything that's running underneath the covers on your Kubernetes platform, so you can at least speak to it and understand the steps that it should be doing. That way, if something does go wrong using one of the platforms I've mentioned, you'll at least have a fundamental idea of where it failed and what you need to go check for within the environment. So you can see here on the screen, I've actually run a watch command with a specific kubectl command to be able to see the pods being restarted on this worker node now that I've uncoordinated it. So we can see everything is in a ready state of 1 of 1 or 3 of 3 or 2 of 2, and the status is running on everything. And I don't see anything being restarted or in a bad state. So I feel confident that this node has been upgraded. And so now I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the rest of the worker nodes. So you can see here on the screen that the cluster has now been upgraded to Kubernetes 1.34.3, and that Cilium is showing everything as working from a CNI perspective. So this concludes this video of showing you how to upgrade a Kubernetes cluster manually using the kubeadm process. Again, this is for demonstration and for study purposes. If you were doing this out in production, you would certainly want to have this automated through a tool like Ansible, or hopefully you're leveraging a platform like Rancher or Portainer, which is going to be able to handle these upgrades for you automatically and seamlessly out in your production environments. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please make sure that you subscribe to the Virtual Elephant YouTube channel, that you turn on notifications, and you hit that like button. Leave me a message below on where you are in your Kubernetes journey and how this video might have helped you study for the CKA certification test. As always, keep checking back, as 2026 is going to be bringing forth a whole lot of new videos around platform engineering and the journey from DevOps to platform engineering and running an IDP. If you have any questions, please make sure that you reach out to me on X @Chris Mutchler or find me on LinkedIn as well. Until next time.